Alright everyone, gather around. What is happening today? We need to talk about Manchester City, and let me tell you the news coming out of the blue side of Manchester this summer. It's a shocker. We are diving deep into a transfer that has raised a lot of eyebrows, a name many of you probably didn't expect, especially when you consider the shoes he might potentially help to fill. You see, for the first time in a long time, Man City had a season where they didn't lift the Premier League title. A season that by their incredibly high standards could be described as a complete failure, a trophy-less season. And that means change was inevitable. A complete squad rebuild, or at least a significant refresh, was needed, and fast. Why fast? Because the FIFA Club World Cup in the US is coming up just weeks after the transfer window opened. City's chairman Khaldoon Al-Mubarak was crystal clear they need at least 4 to 5 new signings, and they need to be done early to get them registered for that tournament. But the biggest piece of this summer's puzzle, the most significant departure, is arguably the end of an era, the departure of a true legend, Kevin De Bruyne. After almost a decade of service, the Belgian superstar is saying goodbye to Manchester City. Now his leaving was somewhat predicted, especially given his age, 33. The intense schedule has taken its toll, and sadly persistent injuries have meant his role faded a bit in the final months. Despite that, even when not at his absolute peak, he is undoubtedly a club legend. He brought that unique creativity, that ability to deliver passes that completely tear apart defenses, the foundation for the controlled football Pep Guardiola has built over the years. The stats don't lie. Since 2015, no player has registered more assists in the Premier League than Kevin De Bruyne, with a staggering 120 assists. He wasn't just the heart of City's midfield, he represented the team's identity of a season. That ability to suffocate opponents with intelligent and precise passing combinations. But as the saying goes, every cycle eventually closes, and the question everyone was asking was, who on earth could possibly replace a player with that kind of influence? In the initial plans, the big name on everyone's lips was Florian Wirtz, the bright young star from Leverkusen. A phenomenal talent, no doubt. However, the reality of the transfer market quickly hit. Wirtz came with a price tag north of 130 million euro. Add to that fierce competition from clubs like Liverpool, and suddenly that deal was quickly out of reach. So City were faced with a dilemma. How do you rejuvenate the squad and tighten the purse strings after a season that didn't bring home the desired silverware? Pep Guardiola needed a different solution, and that solution, the name that appeared on Man City's shopping list this summer, the name that might have made many of you scratch your heads, is Rayan Cherki. Rayan Cherki. A 21-year-old player who just finished a season with Lyon, a team that finished 6th in League One, a player who has never played in the Champions League. Yet this is the player that reportedly made Pep Guardiola call him personally the player Man City were ready to spend 40 million euros on to close the deal quickly. He could become a strategic piece in City's necessary rebuild after that trophyless season. This isn't a random choice, it's the result of a domino effect. De Bruyne leaving a perceived lack of creativity in the attack opponents, spending heavily on top stars, and City's need to quickly and effectively renew their squad with enough quality for the Club World Cup just weeks away. Rayan Cherki just had a genuinely impressive season for Lyon. Across all competitions, he contributed to a total of 32 goals in 44 matches. That's 12 goals and 20 assists. In League One alone, he scored 8 goals and provided 11 assists. He primarily operates as a number 10, that attacking midfield role. But he also has the flexibility to cut inside from the wing, something Pep Guardiola is known to favor. This is part of the strategic thinking. According to sources like Football Insider, City highly rate Cherki's dribbling ability, his creativity, and specifically mentioned his magical feet. He's described as a player who can play on both wings, but is perhaps best as a number 10 with significant potential for further development. He possesses magical feet, excellent dribbling, knows how to make decisive passes, and can score. Clearly in a situation where Man City needed a player who could create chances in the final third, an area they lacked for much of last season, Cherki appears like a fresh wind. He's not the perfect article, but he is full of potential. He's not the new Kevin De Bruyne, but he might be the piece that helps the team rediscover their sharpness in open play situations. From another perspective, Man City didn't have much time to experiment. They entered the summer of 2025 facing dual pressures, rebuilding after a completely failed season and preparing for the Club World Cup. With the tournament starting just weeks after the transfer window opens, the need for speed was paramount. The move for Rayan Cherki is seen as a strategic step rather than chasing expensive targets like Florian Wirtz or Jamal Musiala, names that could cost over 100 million euros and potentially drag out negotiations for months. City shifting towards Cherki, who reportedly has a release clause of only about 40 million euros, is a clear practical move in a time when budgets are restricted due to stricter financial regulations. Man City needed cost-effective but efficient signings. Cherki fits the bill: a reasonable price, young age, significant potential, tactical flexibility. Plus, he was entering the final year of his contract with Lyon, a factor that puts pressure on the French club to sell rather than lose him for free next season. The level of seriousness from Man City for this transfer is underlined by the report from journalist Santi Auna that Pep Guardiola himself directly called Cherki. Pep presented his project and the player's potential role within the Man City squad. A coach like Pep taking the initiative to directly contact a player demonstrates the club's commitment to the deal. And after that conversation, Cherki reportedly agreed to join the Etihad with all personal terms, reportedly facing no obstacles. It's worth noting that Cherki wasn't the only player Man City were looking at as part of this midfield rebuild. They were also reportedly tracking Tijani Reinders from AC Milan and Morgan Gibbs-White from Nottingham Forest. These two players have different styles but could also serve as pieces to refresh the midfield. However, with expected fees potentially exceeding 40 million pounds each for Reinders and Gibbs-White, those deals would likely require longer negotiations. In contrast, Cherki was the quickest and most feasible option to add to the squad in time for the Club World Cup. An interesting point is that Manchester City were not without competition in this area. Liverpool, Manchester United, Newcastle, and even Everton had been tracking Cherki for months. In fact, earlier in the year, Newcastle was reportedly quoted as much as 33 million pounds by Lyon. But with Cherki reportedly willing to leave and Man City acting proactively, the other teams seem to have been left behind. This is clearly a move that is reactive, precise, and somewhat practical. Man City didn't sign Rayan Cherki because he was the most attractive name on the market, but because he was the most suitable player for their current situation. It's a signing that can simultaneously solve multiple issues: financial constraints, time pressure, technical needs, and squad depth. However, a strategically clever signing is not necessarily a guarantee of success on the pitch. If there's one thing people agree on about Rayan Cherki, it's his natural talent. From his refined touches, his ability to escape pressure with individual skill, being comfortable with both feet, to his piercing through balls, it all points to a player who is a true artist on the pitch. But the biggest problem for artists, especially young ones, is how to integrate them into a system with strict discipline without losing their identity. And at the Etihad, that system belongs to Pep Guardiola. Cherki can dribble, pass, shoot, and create chances. But what made many big clubs hesitate when pursuing him was his laziness when defending. Thierry Henry, who worked directly with Cherki in the France U21 and Olympic 2024 teams, spoke frankly to L'Equipe about this weakness. Henry stated that this season Cherki has shown he can meet the demands when the team doesn't have the ball. The issue before was that he had never been able to maintain that level of performance consistently over a run of games to truly show how good he is. But to play regularly, Henry emphasized he must work hard defensively throughout the entire match. Henry noted that because Cherki did this season, he started regularly. It's almost a warning. Henry pointed out that Cherki has the qualities to become world-class, but this weakness holds him back. And at Manchester City, in Pep Guardiola's system, where every player must press, maintain defensive shape, and defend from the front, there is zero room for slackness, not even for the final 10 minutes of a game. Pep Guardiola is not known for being easy on players who are lazy in pressing or lack tactical discipline. Anyone who saw the challenges faced by Jack Grealish or Riyad Mahrez in their early days at the club understands this clearly. Even Bernardo Silva, arguably the most diligent player in the squad, admitted that under Pep, you can't afford to lose focus for even a single second on the pitch. In fact, some internal sources at Man City reportedly expressed reservations about the Rayan Cherki deal. According to the Telegraph, Premier League clubs who tracked Cherki assessed that he had issues with his intensity and was not suited for high-pressing systems. So with all these red flags, why still go for Cherki? Because between the risk and the potential, Pep Guardiola has always believed he can turn a good player into an excellent one if they are willing to learn. And the this past season at Lyon, Cherki was reportedly forced to change and improve his work rate to play regularly. This is seen as a sign that he is ready to step into a new chapter, no longer just flashes of brilliance followed by disappearing acts, but a player who played 44 games, contributed 20 assists, and scored 12 goals, and played a leading role in Lyon's recovery of form. However, the Premier League is not League One, and Man City is not Lyon. What Cherki achieved in France will only be the foundation.
He will have to relearn everything from the beginning. He must adapt to strict tactical demands. He will compete in a squad full of stars, and he must accept that every single mistake will be magnified under the spotlight of a former champion. This is why this transfer is not for those who believe in playing it safe. But perhaps because of that very uncertainty, it perfectly fits a philosophy that Pep Guardiola once articulated. He said, "We cannot keep a winning team forever. We must have the courage to break it down and rebuild from scratch if we want to keep progressing." And sometimes every rebirth begins with uncertain step, and at the Etihad this summer, that step is named Rayan Cherki. So there it is, Rayan Cherki to Manchester City, a move born out of necessity, pragmatism, and a calculated gamble on potential. It's not the obvious superstar name many expected, especially following the departure of a titan like Kevin De Bruyne. But it's a move designed to solve immediate problems, fit within financial constraints, and banking on the belief that Pep Guardiola can mold raw talent into a City system player. The talent is undeniable, but the question marks over his defensive work rate in a demanding high-pressing environment are real. It's a fascinating story that's just beginning. What do you think about this transfer? Is Rayan Cherki the right strategic piece for City? Can Pep Guardiola turn him into a complete player ready for the Premier League intensity? Is this €40 million deal a smart piece of business or a big risk? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments section below. If you found this deep dive insightful, please give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos breaking down the biggest stories in football. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.